Welcome back, everyone. This is Spencer Higginbotham. This is my second video in the series of differences between Jonathan Johnson and Governor Herbert. So the next thing I want to talk about is Common Core. So the question that was asked in the debate was, it was pretty simple. It was, would you keep or get rid of Common Core? Most of the people I've talked to in Utah misunderstand one major thing about Common Core. Utah doesn't do Common Core. We have something very similar that we do, Utah Core. It's very similar to Common Core, but there are some major differences that I will explain as this video unfolds. So one of Johnson's biggest accusations against Governor Herbert is that he once supported Common Core and now he's flip-flopped and now he's against it. Let me explain why that flip-flop is really acceptable. So when Common Core first came out, it was 2010, and it was initiated by the states. So it was not an evil plan by the federal government. It was initiated by the states. So these are the standards. They are, this is the original website of Common Core. They're research and evidence-based, clear, understandable, and consistent, aligned with college and career expectations, based on rigorous content and the application of knowledge through higher-order thinking skills, built upon the strengths and lessons of current state standards, and formed by other top-performing countries to prepare all students for success in our global economy and society. So these standards are patterned. They look like they're patterned pretty well. And we go to the myths versus facts. This is the, people were a little bit skeptical of Common Core when it first came out. So let's see, where's the one that I really want to look at? Oh yeah, this is one I want to look at. The standards tell teachers what to teach. Teachers know best about what works in the classroom. A lot of people, what they complain about is, oh, the federal government thinks that they know what's best about, that they know what we should teach the people. But the standards aren't meant to tell you what to teach. The teachers know best for what works in the classroom. The people in Common Core agree with that. These standards are establish what students need to learn, but not to dictate how the teachers should teach. Instead, schools and teachers will decide how to best help their students reach their standards. Okay, and then these standards amount to a national curriculum for our schools. The Common Core is not a curriculum. It is a clear set of shared goals and expectations for what knowledge and skills will help our students succeed. Local teachers, principals, superintendents, and others will decide how the standards are to be met. Teachers will continue to devise lesson plans and tailor instructions to the individual needs of the students in the classroom. And then the federal government will take over the ownership of the Common Core State Standards Initiative. As it turns out, they did, but that wasn't the original plan. The federal government will not govern the Common Core standards. The Common Core was and will remain a state-led effort. The NGA standard and CCSSO are committed to developing a long-term governance structure with leadership from governors, chief state school officers, and other state policymakers to ensure the quality of the Common Core and that teachers and principals have a strong voice in the future of the standards. States and local school districts will drive implementation of Common Core. So basically what we've established is that Common Core was a state-led initiative, and it is not a list of curriculum or what you're supposed to teach or how you're supposed to teach us, how you're supposed to teach it. It's just simply what the kids are expected to know by college. There are a couple of problems that this solved. That this was meant to solve. One of them was the problem that people often move from state to state, and sometimes some states have higher standards than others. And really, is there any good reason for Florida to have higher states than Missouri? I mean, maybe they should teach different stuff as far as like science and history, but really their needs as far as like how much they're expected to do, and like also English and math. Really, there's no reason why the needs in Missouri would be any different than the needs of Florida as far as what kind of goals they should set, as far as what they should be expected to learn, how to teach them, obviously, and the curriculum and that kind of stuff does need to be adapted to needs. And so anyway, this is how often people move. Mind you, this is just calculating how often people move, period. It does not say how often they move from state to state, so that's something significant to note. But, come on, be cooperative. How often does the average person move? I'm 28 years old and I move 15 times. Okay, is that normal? Person is expected to move 11.4 times in his lifetime. Let's say that you move from state to state 3 times. Okay, and like that's the average. And mind you, that's your whole life, not just when you're a kid, but when you're a parent, it affects you too. And so it's not uncommon for children to move from state to state. It happens all the time. It's a big problem. And it's a problem that Common Core was trying to fix, trying to say we don't want to make it so that these kids have to start at a completely different playing field when they move to a different state. And so, and you know, there were arguments at the beginning against Common Core, but you know, you can't really blame Governor Herbert for being in support of it at first, and he was a major part in bringing it. He was part of the state's initiative. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying I support Common Core. I support the way that it was intended, not the way that it has been executed. This is one thing that has been done in order to race to the top. That was an enhancement on Common Core. What it was that each state had the choice to apply to join to do Race to the Top, and of the states that applied, the federal government would choose 10. Those 10 states would compete against each other. They would be required to have the Common Core standards, and by the way, Common Core is not even required to be accepted by all schools. They just get benefits if they do. But for Race to the Top, you're required to adopt the Common Core standards. And here's an article that kind of describes it. And this article is kind of against it. And you know, the way that it's been executed, I'm against it too. But like whichever state of those 10 did the best was going to get the biggest grant from the government. All 10 of them would get grants, but the amount would be determined by how well they did. And Utah applied for this because, and Governor Herbert did sign the contract to join Race to the Top. Utah was not accepted. They tried again. They were not accepted again. So they tried twice. But remember, this was the same year that Common Core first came out. We didn't know what kind of a mess it was going to turn out to be. We didn't know that the federal government was going to take it over. And so at the time, it seemed like a good idea. And it was a chance to show the world how great Utah was and to get money, for a lot of money for education without raising taxes. Yeah, don't you approve of money being put in education without having to raise taxes? So we didn't get accepted, and it turns out that the states that did get accepted, the federal government has really taken over their education. But the question is Utah in control of their education? We have something called Utah Core. I have a couple websites here about what Utah Core is like, and we'll wait for this to load. Yeah, and this down here does a good job of standards, minimum expectations, curriculum, materials, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, but teaching methods. And then this one's probably the better website. Wait a minute, did I just go to the same one? Oh, I accidentally recorded the same website twice. Oh well. See, people aren't perfect. We shouldn't expect our government to be perfect either. But anyway, so the question is, I mean, Utah Core is very similar to Common Core. We've adopted the same English and math standards. But we do have the power to change those standards if we want. We just decided that the standards of Common Core work just fine for the needs of Utahns. The real question, the real difference between Utah Core and Common Core is that the state has control. Now, Johnson is trying to say that the state does not have control. We'll wait for this to load. But just, can't you see, like, the way that Common Core was intended to be and the way that it has been executed are two different things? And come on. Okay, but if you want to, you can go to that website yourself. I'm going to attach it with a video. But what it's saying, it's the title is Governor Herbert says we are in control of our government, but what it really is, Governor Herbert has a lot to back him up. He had Sean Reyes the Attorney General of Utah do some research to find out whether or not Utah is in control, and he determined that they are. Utah is in control of their standards. Utah is in control of the way that they teach. Teachers are in control of the way that they teach. Education in Utah is great, and as Governor Herbert says in the debate, the results are really what we should be looking at. We should be looking at. He gave some of the rankings. I think we're in like close to the top 10 in just about every major subject, and so things are really going well in Utah as far as education. And we have control over it and everything, and it's working well. Now that being said, going back to Governor Herbert signing for Race to the Top and getting rejected, even though it seemed like a good idea at the time, I will admit that it was a mistake that Governor Herbert made to do that. But it's a forgivable one, because at the time Common Core didn't seem so bad, and it seemed like a good way to get Utah money. And so it's one of the major accusations Johnson makes against him. And you know what? Governor Herbert's not perfect. That was a completely understandable mistake to make. It was a big one, because if we would have gotten accepted, then well, we could have dropped out. We could have dropped out, really. So yeah, I don't agree with him signing it, but I completely understand it. And I can completely understand why he, quote-unquote, flip-flopped on Common Core. And I hope I've helped you to understand that too. And so thanks for watching. Next time we will talk about the Second Amendment.